Good morning, Vietnam, and good morning to the rest of the world, to my students all over the world that are watching my videos. Today I don't really want to call it an idiom, although it probably fits into the category of idioms. It's more of a life lesson. And I'll start it out by explaining what the expression is, or what the question is, because it's often posed as a question. Do you live to work or work to live? The answer to that question is rather philosophical. It's one that requires you to think about how are you living. So if you live to work, you're somebody that's really all they do. They spend all of their time thinking about making more money, advancing, growing their businesses, growing their wealth, at the expense of living life. If you work to live, you're working, like we all need to do. Everybody needs to make a living, or at least most of us do. There are some people that are born with a silver spoon, as we say, which is an idiom, meaning they have a trust fund or money inherited, and they really don't need to work. And we've talked about that and what issues come up with that, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'll leave that up to you to decide. It's something I personally don't think is a very good thing, because it stymies your growth in life. But most of us need to work and earn money. And so we have to decide, are we going to live to work and make that our main goal, or are we going to work to live life? And it made me think about an article that I read many years ago, which had a great influence on me. It was a study done by clinical psychologists in geriatric care. And they were studying patients, well, residents of senior care facilities, and what their mental state was. How happy were they with their life? Because at the end of your life, you're thinking a lot about your past. That's something that happens to us as we get older. We start to remember things from the past more than we remember things from yesterday, and that affects our well-being. One of the things that stood out the most in the article, the one statement, was that they never ever had any resident say to them, "I wish I had worked more and spent less time with my friends and family." They often heard people say, "I wish I had spent more time with my friends and family and worked less." And to me, that was a real moment of revelation, that I believe I've always worked to live. I usually work with the goal in mind of traveling somewhere, of moving to a new place, of doing new things. And so the time that I spend working very hard and making as much money as I can and saving that money up may seem like, oh, all I'm doing is working, and I'm, kind of overwhelmed by that. But because I'm doing it with a goal in mind of heading to a new place, trying a new experience out, even starting new careers, it really was working to live and enjoy life. The article talked about the idea that the ultimate happiness in life, or one of the measurements of happiness with your life, is having the least number of regrets. And not just the least number of regrets in your life, but the type of regrets. And I think that that's important, because we all have regrets. there are decisions we make in life where we say, man, I wish I had done that. You know, I was offered a job once in Berlin and I didn't take it. My partner at the time didn't want to live there. I really wanted to go live there in a newly reunified Berlin. It excited me to no end. I chose not to take the job, and by the time I wanted to take the job, it was no longer available. So I regret that. However, that isn't going to weigh on me in my old age, and I'm going to go, oh my God, if I had taken that job, my whole life would be different. It's one of those small regrets. We do that. We make those mistakes in life, or those decisions that just we wish we had made a different decision. But the big regrets are usually about things like not spending time with our family, not spending time with our children, and instead working all the time. And we may think, oh, well, I'm working for them, for their future. I'm going to make so much money, and then I'm going to leave it to them, and they're going to have an easier life than I had, because they're going to have this wealth that I worked so hard to create. But then they look back and they go, wow, I missed out on watching my children grow up. I missed out on spending those silly little moments when a kid is learning to walk and is falling down and is learning to count and having to try to move their fingers to do it, and all those little things that we think are so meaningless at the time, and yet as we get older, they become the most meaningful part of our life that we missed out on. So I want to call this a life lesson and take it to heart. If you are living to work right now with the idea that what you're doing is for your children's benefit, think twice about that. Maybe cut back on that time that you're spending and realize that leaving them wealth versus leaving them time with you and experience with you and all those moments together and watching them grow up and going to the baseball games or the football matches or the dance recitals or piano recitals or whatever millions of things that children do while they're growing up, missing out on those because you're so busy working is going to be a big regret in the future, and one that you can never change. A child grows up quickly. The time that they want to spend with you stops at some point, and they don't want to spend as much time with you. And if you miss that, there's no going back. There's no returning to that. So consider this an idiom life lesson, and I really hope you find your way to work to live and live to your fullest. Enjoy those moments of time. If they're not with family, enjoy the things that you do outside of work that make life really meaningful. I think this was a little long, but it was, as we say, I was waxing philosophical. I was been thinking about this a lot because I'm back at school teaching again. It's tiring. I'm teaching preschool, and it's very, very hard physically, especially after about a year and a half of a rather sedentary life of lockdown and just teaching online. But I'll get used to it, and the goal of doing it is to work to live my life and enjoy it. So, peace from Vietnam, much love, live, learn, love, and like share, subscribe. See you soon on Barefoot English.